Hello, everyone. It's that time for the JMOR Tech Talk Show, where we answer questions about technology, explain the way they should work, and why they don't sometimes. And now here's your host, John C. Morley. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome once again to the JMOR Tech Talk Show. I cannot believe, Marcus, we are just about at the end of March. It's great to have you here tonight. Welcome.
Hey, it's good to be back. I'm feeling lucky after just 2 days after St. Patty's Day. So I hope your St. Patrick's Day was a real good one, John.
It was really good. I actually went outside to a restaurant and had some corned beef and cabbage set up by a fireplace. And it was really nice because I really didn't want to go anywhere indoors.
Awesome.
And they had to wait for 90 minutes if you were going to sit indoors, which I didn't want to do anyway.
Yeah, I don't think that was going to happen. Hopefully.
So a new announcement to everyone. So we want to give you a lot more great quality content. So we want to put it into nuggets, and we're condensing our show down to 58 minutes. We know you guys are busy. So we're going to cut that great content down to 58 minutes, keeping our interviews even shorter and allowing you to get on with the rest of your day or your night. But now you're just going to have to wait till next week because we're not going to be able to give you so much, but we're still going to give you great content. So when we're talking about what's going on in the news, Apple made it clear that Parler was not allowed on their iOS. And even with all the changes that they appeared to make, they're still not allowed on the platform. What do you think about that?
Hey, you knew this was coming.
I knew it was coming.
Come on.
I knew it.
After what happened at the U.S. Capitol riot, this is no surprise. These guys has really pushed and pushed and pushed, and they got what was coming their way.
I mean, they just really just went around the back door. And, people thought just because, they were able to do certain things that they were going to be back, but they're not. They're not able to be back and running because Apple's just, I guess, not really confident that they're going to be able to put out quality because anyone can get on Parler right now. And supposedly there's not too much censorship. Not that that's good or that's bad. However, it's causing a little bit of a problem because the wrong people are starting to get into these platforms. And I think that's the real issue. And I think that's why Apple is really putting their hand up and saying, okay, enough.
Yeah, Apple doesn't want to be held liable or connected to anything that's going to give them bad press. And that's just the fact of the matter. Apple has kept their hands pretty squeaky clean. And now they don't want to take the chances of getting dirty.
And I think it's just like, your friends or something, if somebody's doing something and you're not happy with what they're doing and they keep doing it, well, you're going to disassociate yourself with that person. Forget just COVID-19. You're going to permanently detach yourself from that person because that's not proper or unethical. Because
Yeah,
I think people then realize that you become that person or you start taking on characteristics of that person.
That's absolutely true. But I don't think this is going to really stop the growth of this platform, because it still has its web hosting that is still available. So people can still find a way to get on it, but just not in the more easy, convenient way. So as long as the name's out there, I think people still find a way.
I think what might happen is if Apple decides to create their own platform, who knows if they're going to do that, that could be the nail that really separates the tides.
That is a real good hypothesis you're putting out there, and that's something to really ponder because Apple does have their loyalists, and anything Apple does, it becomes just like putting gold, well, actually mining gold out of the river.
Yeah, that's not the goal from Bitcoin, everyone.
No.
So another interesting thing that has been hitting the news recently is the malicious NPM packages that are stealing Linux and Unix passwords. This doesn't surprise me, Marcus. It really doesn't. I
Mm.
mean, these companies are just doing whatever they have to. And unfortunately, with these type of attacks and containing things like the Lyft dataset SDKs and serverless Slack apps and ZG rentals and Amazon apps, there's going to be issues. People are just not paying attention. And many security experts are really starting to wonder what's going on in this new malicious NPM package. Main packages are the company's Linux profiles, like bash history files, etc. And once the hackers acquire this data, well, they're going to send it to a lot of remote users all over. And who knows what the heck they're going to do with it. And I can tell you this, Marcus, it's not going to be for something good. It's going to be in the bad actor world, or quote unquote cyber criminal world.
So I guess the biggest question is that if this just something that is really being easily acquired from the Linux systems and units, uh, what makes us not think that other systems may not be vulnerable either, John? And that's just a curious question coming from someone like myself, and that may be, maybe others out there that's listening that or watching that's quite wondering the same.
I think what it really comes down to is this, Marcus. For a long, long time, everyone always believed that Linux is less susceptible. Now, it kind of is, but people are starting to take the attack, just kind of like Apple is not as
Right.
prone to viruses and spyware. I'm not saying that it can't be, but they just don't feel like there's enough in that pool to waste their time. So because of these flaws that are out there, that means that Linux and these shells have to get a lot more secure. And I think the real reason that this happens is because they don't update their bash and they update their Linux kernels. That's what it comes down to, Marcus. It's not that Linux is not secure. It's not that these packages are not good. It's that they are not gone through the level of Q&A and security that they should be. So, for example, the Amazon or the ZG Rentals MP package not only steals the passwords in the etc. shadows password file, it sends it back to the hackers.
Hmm.
So, the thing is this: I believe that the Linux world has to get a facelift in terms of security. And I've always said this before, Marcus, it doesn't matter what platform you're on, you need to have security at multiple levels, not
Right.
just at your computer. You need to have it at the firewall level. You need to have different levels. When you protect yourself with all kinds of, let's say, things to protect you from surges or spikes, you don't just put a surge protector on your computer. You should put one on your house too. Some people put one in the middle. There's multiple levels that'll catch things. I believe in this world. They believe because it's Linux, nobody's going to interfere with it, or Unix. But you know what? It's starting to manage big business like Amazon, and who knows if it's even behind the new space projects.
Yeah.
People use this, Marcus, because it is cheap, because it's open source, because it's free. And when things are free, I'm sure it's no mystery to you that with free comes security violations and vulnerabilities.
Yeah, free doesn't always mean great, that's for sure.
So
Uh,
I think we have to
yeah.
be cognizant of this, but I think something needs to happen whereby these NPM packages are going to be able to be scanned, and that security software should be deployed on these systems that can detect these NPM packages and make sure that they're not going to be of a threat, like collecting data, etc., key logging and passwords and things of that nature. But it just goes to show you, Marcus, that things like two-factor encryption for one-time passwords should be used.
Yeah.
If these systems were using two-factor encryption, one-time password systems, then it wouldn't even matter whose passwords in the file.
That's true. Well, yeah, it just really comes to show that you can't take someone else's word and just run to what's kind of trending and what's kind of popular, and not take into consideration the things you just laid out, John. That's really awesome.
Thank you very much, Marcus. And my next guest coming up, a really interesting gentleman. He is from China, but he actually originally lived in Germany. And he's also started something called China FlexPat. He's one of the leaders over in China, trying to get people to understand how things work in China and how China's reaching out to other places because they actually pay people, Marcus, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times more money than the people in China for the same job. Please help me welcome to the JMOR Tech Talk Show, Mr. Francis Kremer, who again is currently residing in China, and he loves to teach English. He has this passion, and he's helping people now in a job in sales. And right now he is starting to work on something that may just shape and change the way China is going to be growing. Again, please help me welcome to the JMOR Tech Talk Show, Mr. Francis Kremer. Hey everyone, it's John C. Morley with the JMOR Tech Talk Show. And I'm very pleased today to have a great guest, Francis Kremer, who originally was from Germany. And then actually he retired. He was in sales. And then he actually came back to around Shanghai, China. And not only did he come back to China, but he actually became a mentor to help people in sales to become even better than they currently are now. So he's a motivator, is what I'd like to call him, to inspire people to become even better than they currently are now. And he has a motto that you have to teach it and import that to other people for other generations so that they can help shape and change our world. Francis, welcome to the JMOR Tech Talk Show tonight.
Thanks for having me, John.
It is my pleasure. So you had a very interesting career, and it's still going on. You basically retired, right? And then you kind of came back and are living a second life and having the dream life to help people really make some very positive changes, right?
Exactly. So I came to China when I was 21 for the first time to teach English. And then I came back a year later to do an internship. And then a year later, I did my university major on China. And I really always thought I have to work here. But at the time, you would earn like 150 euros a month. That would be like $180, something like this. So it was not really the place to start your career. So I went back to Germany and tried to make a lot of money and was kind of successful also in sales. And then at some point in my early 30s, I thought, I cannot go on like this. I always thinking about China and staying in Germany and speaking my own language every day. It's so boring. So I have to start something new. And I went to China.
But I have to ask you, so what made you so passionate about China? I mean, you obviously are really regrowing your roots there, but what made you so passionate about wanting to make a monumental difference from China?
Well, what I always tell people is that you meet the companies, the economy is run by people born in the 80s, like me, right? 80s. And they are in management positions now. And they drive cars and they send their kids to a good school and they buy houses or apartments, and they maybe even go on holiday to the Philippines, to Thailand, to Germany, But their parents, they went to work by bicycle.
Wow.
So that's what I always think. It's so incredible that there is a whole generation that is very close to living standard in Germany, but they grew up in a totally different way, And these parents who, went to work by bicycle, now they tell them what to do because the Chinese people always listen to their parents. So
we have a company.
So cool. That is so cool. We have a
company in New York that actually started providing bikes, and then banks like Citi and other banks put their names on them, and they allow people to rent these bikes to take short trips or long trips. and they can put them in ports and they can charge their credit cards. So we're kind of getting into that level, but not quite the same. So I can see you love China a lot, and now I can understand a little more about the flavor to why you're so passionate. So you ran into this podcast called the China, I guess called the FlexPat. Can you share a little bit about that for us? And what is that exactly? And how did it get started?
Let me go back a little bit. So 1985, I would say Volkswagen, the very famous German auto company, they more or less tried to get into China. They had very ambitious leaders and they tried to do this. So they came to China and they made a deal with the local government and they started their company and they started the supply chain and so on. And over, the company grew in China, and so did many other international companies that came to China. So they sent expats to come to China to build this operation. And in the past, let's say 35 years, there was a whole generation of expats that came and left and came and left and went more and more and more kind of sophisticated, and it worked out really well. And it was a career path. People came here because they could take a real management position in their early 30s, and they would come back to Germany or the US in their later 30s, and they would take a higher management position there. So it was a complete career path, well paid. The family was taken care of, and so on. So it was something it was a good thing to do. And this is totally changing. So for two reasons. So expats, they act like a glass ceiling to Chinese professionals because they cannot attain a management position if there's an expat on this position. So it's a difficult thing from HR position for a Chinese workforce to say we have lots of expats to do the top jobs, and you Chinese people, you can do the lower level jobs. And also, there are foreigners like me who like to work in China, who enjoy working in China. So you don't have to send them and pay them a lot of money. They enjoy doing this. So what I try to start is a community of flexible expats. So flexible people who like and enjoy working in China because they think it's a dream. It's great. It's fantastic. They can learn. Not because their company pays them to go there and takes care of their families, but because I think it's great. So flexible expat, a flexpat. And when I started this last year, I had to explain to everybody what this means, like we did today. But now it seems that on LinkedIn and so on, I have lots of people that I don't even have to explain the name. It's a brand now. So I'm really happy about this.
It's a brand and it's a cultural thing too. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, it is. It is because, of course, lots of people are afraid. People came here as expats maybe 5 or 10 or 15 years ago. They got a Chinese wife, got Chinese German kids, and then they tried to stay in China, but their expat contract ran out. So they took local jobs with a maybe good salary, but their whole lifestyle is, it's based on the fact that they get a very high salary. And
do you
it's
feel
not
that
really
the
fair.
balance is there in China? Is there a good work life balance from personal to business? Is there a good balance, or is there a lot of work, or is it flexible to different people, or what's the style like in China?
Well, everybody in China knows about 996. It's 996, which means 6 days a week, 9 o'clock a.m. to 9 p.m. This is something that is coming from Alibaba, from the startup culture in China, very successful companies. They tell young people, if you want to make it in the world, you have to work hard. So this is not a good sign for work-life balance, right? It's just, you can make it in China if you work hard. And the generation before the leading generation, they also worked very hard. And now, so work-life balance, it's getting more and more important. But typically, I would say if you work in China, you work a lot more than especially in Europe.
And I think it's because sometimes, not to say anything bad about any cultures, because we're all equal in the way that we all want to earn a living and we all want to have a great life. I think sometimes stereotypes get put on certain cultures, unfortunately, and because of that, it makes people have to work harder, or because of perceptions, they just need to get that edge. And I guess by working hard, even in America, you need to work hard when you begin, because if you don't, we always say it's the early bird that gets the worm. And if
Exactly.
you come late, well, then someone else is going to get your breakfast or get your lunch or get your dinner, and you're still going to be wondering where you're going to go eat. We have another saying in the United States, when they have fish, give a man fish, he'll eat and he'll go hungry every day. Teach a man to fish, and he'll be able to eat every day of his life. So that seems
There you
very
go.
similar to what you're doing, in that you're really trying to impart your knowledge, Francis, aren't you, onto the people in the sales team that you have. And if I may ask, what are the ages? Do they start the same like they do in America, or what's the typical working ages in China for, let's say, sales for right now?
It's of course difficult to say. Typically, the image of a salesperson in China is extremely bad, extremely low level. So you see normally Chinese people, they dress like I do now, right? So they have maybe a shirt and a kind of a pullover and maybe a blazer. That's it. If you see salespeople, they wear white shirt and a tie, so they were come off very professionally, and people would see them and say, they are the salespeople. So I'm the customer and they have to treat me well. I'm the king, right? So actually, I grew up with this in Germany as well. I grew up, my career started with this: the customer is the king, you have to serve the king and so on. But then later, I learned the challenger sales, so that actually you need to challenge the customer in order to really, make him change the way he acts. And I always have a problem if people think that the salespeople is someone that needs to make the customer happy, and they have to earn their respect because they are like the bottom level of the society. It's quite tough. So sorry to go so much into this, but the ages what we have just a little bit respects this. So people come in here right after college, maybe 22, 23, and then they get a sales role. And this is compared to the engineers who come from university and build machines. Then they start very low and they have to kind of work their way up to really get the respect from the customer. So my team, the sales manager, I think is like 33 and 34, and the sales guys are between 23 and 30, like this.
So it's a beginning position, but in America, when you do sales, it's been thought of a little bit differently, because, as you know, salespeople were always looked not too good, because people would look down at them, and it was always
So it's the same for you? So it's the same in
Similar
the
thing.
US?
But it has
Okay.
changed a lot, I will tell you, because
Mm.
what has happened is you have those people, okay? And let's just say I was selling you this widget, or I was selling
Mm.
you this phone. In America, the people that go out and push products, and the reason I know this, being an entrepreneur and owning several companies, it's about a relationship
Mm.
in the United States. If someone goes and tries to push a product, because there's always someone going to be cheaper, you have to set the standard and the boundaries with your client. And I like
Yes.
to call them a client, not a customer. A
Mm.
customer in the United States is someone like that goes to a fast food restaurant,
Yeah.
or maybe they go into a store and they buy something, and there's really not a lot of respect. It's a one-off sale. There's not really much going into that sale. When you have a client that you take care of, and if you have that client that keeps running you around the mulberry bush, okay, that's one problem. The second problem is if you are the person trying to get them involved. I always tell people, we don't sell anything. We just help people solve their problems. And I think when you approach it that way, because the reason salespeople in the United States have gotten, let's say, a bad rap, is because people would be going in, they're brand new to sales, Francis, and they have to make this sale. The sales manager said, if you don't make X sales by this date, you're gone. But they
Mm.
never gave them the tools, Francis, and how to succeed. They just said, sink or swim, which I get the mentality of it, but you at least have to give them some tools. Now, some
I know.
people are
I agree.
trainable, some people are not. So what I've learned in all the years I've done this is that when you come out of school, they always teach you that you need to, kiss up to the customer and do everything you can to get that
Yeah.
sale. But realize something, there are plenty of clients out there. And when they see your value, you have to explain to them. Now, it's a little different in the entrepreneurial world, but very similar. If you're selling a widget or maybe you're selling a pen, that pen might be expensive and they might feel intimidated about selling that product because maybe they haven't bought that product. And what I've also found is that if you try to get someone to sell a product that they don't feel comfortable using or buying, they're going to feel intimidated and very low on the totem pole. And what a lot of sales reps do is they push the product. Well, we got this here today.
Exactly.
I know you want to take it. A gentleman just before, he was trying to sell a space for something. He says, well, if you don't call me by Monday,
I know.
the price is going to go.
I know.
And, that's rude.
They're pushy. Yeah.
But that's the problem, Francis. And that's why they've gotten a bad reputation. It's because there's a couple bad eggs. And so our sales people now are starting to change and really not get the role as a salesperson. A professional salesperson is really a consultant. We don't have salespeople anymore. Salespeople are commodities. They can be replaced every day. A consultant has value like you do, and you bring that to the marketplace. And then when someone says, oh, gee, I can get that cheaper, fine, go get it cheaper. And realize that when you have something and you are unique in your marketplace, they're just, pulling one over you. And that's what the client is very trained to do, is to psychologically outwit the salesperson.
Exactly.
And what they were teaching before is how to trip the customer, but not using ethical tactics. And that's the reason, Francis, why I believe that they had been given a very low notch on the totem pole. There are still those people, but there's still a lot of people that are consultants now that actually get paid very well because they're able to help people solve a problem. When somebody says, what do you sell? I don't sell anything. I just solve problems.
Yeah, but this is exactly the case. So what we do here in my company in China is we entered the market of building electric motors 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago. So the company I work for was founded by the parents of my boss. So I've been talking about this generation of 80s and generation before, right? So my boss is 70s, born in the 70s. So his parents born in the 50s, maybe early 50s. They still work. They still work. So now they started building machines for maybe $5,000, 40,000 RMB, maybe 30 years ago. And now my boss, he builds machine for 30 million RMB. So this is like $5 million, $4 million. So one machine. So it's like within 30 years, there was a super big jump. So what we see now is that international clients, sorry, you said you don't like to say customers, international clients. So they are typically suppliers of the automotive industry, like Bosch, like Nidec, like Borg-Warner. So they come to China, they build their plants in China in order to serve their local customers in China. That could be international OEMs, international car companies, but also Chinese car companies.
Okay.
And they typically have global standards. So they would try to use the same machine in the US or in Germany or in Mexico and in China.
Okay. Now you mentioned Bosch. I'm actually a client of Bosch. And I was told that Bosch was made in the United States. Is that incorrect?
Bosch?
Yes.
Well, Bosch is a big company. It's like the top German, the worldwide leading automotive supplier. So the first supply chain of the car, the traditional car, and also in the electric car, they're also doing pretty well. So
and they're also doing very high-end dishwashers, and they're making some remarkable products.
Exactly.
And I got to tell you, why is it, Francis, that we in America can't make a dishwasher that is so darn quiet? You put that dishwasher on at 1 o'clock in the morning and you don't hear it. It just runs. there's a different level, I think, of I don't want to say integrity, but there's a different work ethic, I think, sometimes overseas that they really want to be the best they can. And in America, they want to as well. But I think what happens is they get so hung up, Francis, on price and competition that they push something to market before it really gets a chance to become top notch. We see that with a lot of companies.
Yeah,
One I'm not going to mention starts with an M. Other companies out there starts with an A, and you know who I'm talking about. Other one that starts with an I, big companies. And these companies just want to make a fast buck. They haven't made money in a while, so they need to release a new version or do something. And that's what they do. Now, when you were talking about this program, what kind of stories would you say that our listeners would be able to hear, or the people in China, what would they be able to find out by going to this particular podcast?
Well, it's really this big change happening. So in the past, I remember for myself, I first came to China as an English teacher. So now there's lots of English teachers in China, but you can really make a lot of money. So you typically, it's very transactional. You can get a job for 1 year and maybe extend it for another year, extend it for another year, extend it for another year, but you will not get a promotion. You're an English teacher, that's it. And it's actually getting worse. So it's not really, I would not advise this to especially Americans who want to go to China to teach English because they think, they speak English and it's a good way to experience China. I just think this is not a good field to start your career, especially when you're young, when you should actually, build some capital and build a career. So at the other hand, there's this top level jobs. Something what I'm doing. So you work in a company in a management position. These kind of jobs are very difficult to get. So in the past, if you wanted to get this kind of job in China as a foreigner, you could only be sent to China as an expat. So the company in Germany and the US, they send you to China. They pay you an American or German salary, plus some kind of extra cost because they want to make you happy that you live abroad. They will take care of your family and they will take care of the send you home for holiday once a year, whatever you need, pay your pension fund and so on. So this whole package adds up to something like, I don't know, double salary of a German American salary, double of this in China, where normally in China people would earn like 10% of what, so it adds up to expats would earn 10 times more than local salary, 20 times more.
So they're paying because of, that's a big sacrifice that someone's making. And that's why they're paying that extra money, because to basically pick up yourself or your family and to just relocate.
Of course.
Not a very
like
simple task.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into that. But what I really want to know is, when you think about these different stories and you talk about other people in companies and working in jobs, what I find to be the most challenging thing, and maybe you have a spin on this, whether you speak one language or multiple languages, if you speak English, for example, and you come over to China, okay, and you don't know Chinese, and you try to understand it, is it like going to France where they really don't want to help you? If you don't know the language, they're going to laugh at you. They're going to be rude. How is it like in China? Because I've never been to China, to be honest with you.
Well, I can only tell you, I first came to China in 2004, and I could catch the language in a few weeks. So I could not speak Chinese, but I could get around pretty well. So it is possible. It's really possible. Yes, I would say
I need to hold my Google or my app here that could do translating for me. And
I have that as well. I have that as well. I can only tell you that I don't really use apps anymore. So I've been here for a long time. I speak fluent Chinese. I have no problem to communicate.
Now,
but when I first,
oh, sorry, in China, there is a lot more emphasis on security. Am I correct? There's like cameras almost every corner, and we don't have that in America. And also Germany's different than that too, right? Very different.
Yeah. So yeah, of course, it's a lot different. Yeah. How about in the US?
The US is not like that. In the US, we do not have cameras on every point. They are at certain places, public places, but they're not at every intersection. They're not at every mall.
Hmm.
I mean, they'd be at
I
some
guess.
mall, but they're just not like as I'd seen in the news. They're not as omnipresent as they are in China.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think also in Germany, I know there's security, but it doesn't seem like it is in China. China does seem very concerned about people's security, but yet they just seem to have this web, if you will, of information. And my big concern is what people are doing with it. We had a guest on a few weeks ago, the Internet of Things, Carl Weaver, and we were talking to him about different things, and he brought up the concept of governance. And we're like, who's going to take responsibility, Francis? Is it going to be the manufacturers? Is it the software developers? Who's going to take that responsibility? I mean, a drone flies to your home and suddenly it crashes into your neighbors. Well, don't laugh if we start having a rider for your insurance called a drone rider.
Hmm.
And that policy you have to get if you get more than 2 deliveries a year because the company can only handle 1 crash a year or something like that. I
Hmm.
mean, I know it sounds stupid, but I feel that's where we're going. And
Yeah.
with the information age of distributed computing and everything happening, information is moving so quickly. I mean, just using your phone and sending a text, most people don't know that just texting from an Apple device to another Apple device, if you don't enable iMessage, it's not secure. And if
Yeah.
you use an Android device to an iPhone, forget it. So you need to use an app like Telegram, and that had over 500 million downloads. So security is really changing the
Hmm.
way life is.
Yeah, there's but go more into this. So what do you know about China in that regard? What do you think, or what do Americans think about China in regarding to the cameras and the information?
I believe that they have this technology, and I can tell you that our government over here, there were certain factories that they actually put an NDA out. Now that doesn't stand for non-disclosure. That's basically a not to do business with them. And if there was a school, a government, or a business, and we did work with a public entity like a school or a government, we couldn't have certain camera systems installed because we had found that these cameras that didn't have microphones on them had hidden microphones. And these microphones were taking information back to China. So it has us a little concerned. Now, I don't
Doesn't
know what
sound very
happens on
good.
the other side, but
Doesn't sound very good what you're describing.
no, it's so this is why, and I'm being very honest, Francis, why the US has been very skeptical. I think there's a lot we can learn from China and we can work together. But I think the biggest challenge, Francis, is that, and this goes with any other country, when there's a language barrier, they sometimes don't understand the translation and it gets rude and abrupt because they think that the US is being rude, but we're not. We're just trying to ask a question and it sounds like we're insulting them, but we're not. And so that's something I've been noticing a lot in the last couple of years, Francis.
Yeah, I know. But there's actually there's a lot of books about communication, about culture differences. So what I always like to say about the Chinese people is that one person in China, like you and I, we don't make a decision. The decision has always been made by a community.
Okay.
So this is totally different. You need to keep this in mind. If someone tells you something, a Chinese person tells you something, it is not a decision. He's not speaking for himself. He's just putting in one more point of communication that you have to add up in a puzzle of other information. And then you have to understand what he's trying to tell you. If you don't understand that, it's your fault.
It's my fault.
Because you didn't understand all the puzzle, it's your job, not my job to tell you. So the American person or the German person, I'm German. I always tell people, look, I'm German, I'm direct. So I think and I tell you, that's it. You don't have to know anything else before or afterwards. Just understand what I'm trying to tell you. That's it. It's different. It's just different.
It
So
is different.
if
It's a
you want to
different
work
kind
with
of
Chinese people,
communication.
yeah. So it's different. So what have you ever had the chance to discuss this with the Chinese people? Kind of a discussion, anything like this?
I've had a few people that I know of in the States that are Chinese, some that are good friends of mine. And when I've talked to them, they are very supportive, because what I've noticed with them, Francis, is that a lot of people don't give them a chance. And I
Mm,
believe in non-discrimination for
mm,
any reason: race,
yeah.
religion, sexual orientation, culture, etc.
Mm,
And I believe you just got to give people a chance. I think when somebody is flustered, which can happen sometimes, I just say, look, I'm not like those other people, but I'm not going to tell you that. You're going to have to see that for yourself.
yeah. You
And
can try it out.
gradually, over time, it doesn't matter what I say, but my actions really speak louder. And so that's what kind of builds the bridge or the bond that, hey, you know what? This person's from the US, but they're not like all the other US people that have that
Mm,
stereotype.
yeah.
And I believe we need to give people a chance. I know there are a lot of challenges that happen that I'm not going to bring up here, but there are always going to be political differences in any culture, in any country. I think that's just going to be inevitable. People sometimes can't work together. And when I tell people, I have a phrase, Francis, when some things don't work out. I had taken my very first job when I was at a college, and I was working for the government, and I wasn't getting paid what I should be getting paid. And so I decided after a while to use something I should have done a long time ago. And I walked up to the HR director 2 months before I was supposed to get vested. Probably wasn't a smart thing, but I had morals. I went up to the HR director and I said, I just want to say thank you. What do you mean? I said, I just want to say thank you. I had a great run with you guys the last 4 or 5 years. And this was a lot of fun. She says, and what are you saying? I said, oh, by the way, this is going to be my last day. But I want to say thank you to you because you helped me. We helped you. Yeah. You helped me become a better version of myself. And I owe that all to you. And now you guys can become a better version of yourself. And now I know that I have to keep becoming a better version of myself and just taking whatever doesn't serve me out of the way. And they just like went into this daze.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
So I believe, Francis, that it's about, having a support for people and also, doing the right thing, whether it's a certain culture or not a certain culture. It's about understanding. And I believe if we really put the effort forth, even though there's different languages, we can
Yeah,
still make things work. We can
absolutely.
still understand each other and we can still communicate in different ways. And our face, shows lots of words and symbols. So if you're really trying, I believe the other person will know that you're trying to help. That's what I
Yeah,
believe.
absolutely.
And so that's what I go by. But a lot of times, it's always, what did he say? What did she say? And I
Yeah,
always say
sure.
to someone, well, who told you that? Or what source told you that? Well, we heard it on such and such. Well, the media sometimes filters things. So how do you believe all of it? You can't. So you have to become your own filter, Francis, because if you don't do that, then you just become a byproduct of everything else that everybody's telling you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. You have to make your own point. Yeah.
And when you're talking about these episodes, which sounds really great, and I'm sure a lot of people will want to watch them, you also mentioned to the fact that it's important to get other people to learn things, to teach them things so that we can, I guess, import knowledge. Where did that come from to make you want to be able to do the teaching? I know you said you taught the English, but what made you really want to get people to understand?
Yeah, that's very philosophical. But actually, to make very short, my mom came from Ireland. So I was born in Germany, but my mom is Irish. So I grew up half Irish, half German. And there was a lot of influence. My mom was an English teacher, and she would always teach English at home. And so the teacher, the students, sometimes my friends, they would come to my home and my mom would teach them. And later she took a job again when she was over 50. You know, I have 5 brothers and sisters, so a big family. And then my mom would start working again full-time as a teacher in her when she was 50 years old, and then kept doing that until her retirement. So I like to say this was the happiest time of her life. It sometimes was a bit tough for me because I thought, you know, she should have been happy raising me, but she was really happy teaching. And so when I started working, I always wanted to go into business and always wanted to go to China. So I was totally committed on this and never had any brain for teaching. But then later I thought, you know, I checked this out. I can do something what nobody else can do. So now I have to teach it, because now I know something what people know, and I don't want to take it home with me. I want to spread the word, you know, and really kind of let people understand what took me 10 years to figure out.
That's really important, is when you can take your whole life and then sometimes there's that blip. Like, why did I learn that a while ago? And I tell people, it doesn't matter when you learned it, but just be grateful that you learned it now. So now you can apply it the rest of your life. How do you feel, Francis, when you're able to teach the sales team? What does that feel like to you?
No, to me, it's fantastic. You know, I always wanted to be a business guy when I was young. You know, I had music with my brothers and my friend. We did music on the streets, and we printed the business cards. You know, I was 14 years old. We printed the business cards and then distributed the cards, and then kind of got gigs, you know, so got old people with a lot of money, and they would order us small kids, come to their home and play the music, and then they pay us 200 euros. You know, it was a lot of money. It was fantastic. So I always wanted to do this for a living. So then I decided to study business, and this business studies took me to China. And so my world opened up and up and up and up. So, but I never really knew how to do this. You know, I knew how to print a business card and how to hand it over. But then I started my first sales job was just like you told me. They told me to cold call people, and I had no idea how this works. Nobody really trained me, and it was very, very, very tough. And so now when I do this job, I try to understand my staff, my team. I try to understand them, where they're coming from, and what makes it difficult for them to work with European customers, to work with people from other cultures, international teams, to sell machines for very, very, very high value. And I try to give them time to go through the same learning curve that I went through, but with more help, with more empathy and understanding, that I can really actually help them to approach me and get my point of view, but not push it onto them, but really to give them the chance to learn it by themselves, like I did. I had this business dream and this China dream, and so now I'm here because I had this dream. So I'm not sure about my team. They will have other dreams. So I can only motivate them to develop their own good dream, and I hope that it includes electric car machines. You know, then I can
Maybe
help them.
they'll want to do what you do someday. They may want to be able to
Maybe,
manage their own team.
maybe,
You don't necessarily know that, but we didn't really talk about this a lot. So our show's all about value, as you probably guessed. And when, you know, you're working with those teams, you're working with high ticket items. What tips can you give our viewers tonight about, you know, selling high ticket items? Is there any kind of tips that you can maybe educate? Because we get sales teams that listen to us. What can you share with our viewers that might help them be a little better with selling high ticket items?
Well, there's a couple of wisdoms, like you said before, with the early bird and stuff like this. You know, so what I like to say is, in big ticket sales, the sales guy needs to earn the trust. So the sales guy needs to get the client to trust, because we sell machines for 30 million RMB, which is $4 million. It takes for 5 million. It takes 1 year to build, and then takes another year to really start operating. So after 2 years, so it will take 1 year to sell this, 1 year to build, 1 year to start. So after 3 years, the client will see if it works or not. And there's no way going back. There's no way going back. I mean, you can destroy the machine, but then you have to order another one. Will take another 3 years. So you can only go forward. So the sales guy needs to concentrate on building trust. That's it. That's it. If
And
the
that can
sales
take a
guy,
lot of time, especially with
of
high
course,
ticket items. It's probably
of
one of the
course,
hardest things you have to teach your salespeople, right?
of
How to
course.
build trust.
But one thing I want to add here is the sales guy takes a year to build the trust, but the project manager who is building the project, he will take 1 or 2 days to destroy the trust.
Yes. And
So,
when you're working on a team together, you have to realize that goes back to that philosophy that, you can build great friendships, great relationships, right? And you can destroy them like that in a fraction of a second by just
that's
one
it.
thing you did or someone else did or didn't do. And you just don't get a second chance to do it all over again. You have to start from scratch and maybe start 50 times harder than that, because you have to build trust from what you broke, and then you have to rebuild trust again.
Exactly. So we say the sales manager, he sells the machine, which for me means he builds the trust big enough for the customer to trust, for the client to trust us, to build his machine. The project manager will sell the second project.
The second
Because
project.
if
Okay.
the project manager is doing a good job, then the customer, the client, will trust us for the second project. And we typically make more revenue and also more profit on the second project.
Now, when you talk about these things that you're selling, what application, I'm not sure if you're able to tell us that, but what are they using these for? Now, you mentioned cars, but what else are they using these systems that you're building for?
So I always like to say it from the other way around to explain a little bit easier. So you see how the car culture changed, right? So you had the Henry Ford 100 years ago, right?
Mhm.
Built the first kind of assembly made car. And then this didn't change so much in the next 100 years, to be honest. It was a little bit more efficient and so on, but it still looks more or less the same way, But
Okay.
then electric car by Tesla, it totally changed. So now you don't have a car with an engine inside, but you have the outside looks the same, and the customers, they want to have the same kind of feeling. They want to have a cool electric car, but they still want to have a car. It takes them from A to B. So you cannot change so much, but you still have to innovate. So the car companies, they try to kind of keep operating like they used to do in the past 50 years, but it's very difficult for them, and including their supply chain. So what I'm doing is I'm working in the supply chain of the car industry, both the traditional car and the electric car. So we build machines to build electric motor. Every car contains, also the old school cars, let's call it like this, traditional cars, they also contain about 20 electric motors, maybe to move the seat, to move the electric wiper, and so there's lots of small electric motors in the car.
Mhm.
And the big change that's happening now from traditional to electric is that the powertrain, so the system which is pushing the power from the motor, from the engine to the wheels, this is completely electric. So now the powertrain of an electric car, it just contains a big battery pack. This is what everybody's talking about, how to make this more efficient and more sustainable. And you
Mhm.
need electric motor, which transports the energy takes the energy from the battery, puts it in the motor, and then puts it onto the axis, right? So to get the speed. And
Mhm.
this is so cool. So if you drive an electric car and you push the acceleration, it will take you off. There's no sound, but it will take you off like crazy. It's absolutely fantastic. And this all comes down to engineering. So how efficient do you do the battery? How efficient do you do the motor? And this development in the past 10 years, it has totally changed every single year in the past 10 years. This is for engineers. I'm not an engineer, I'm a sales guy. But for engineers, this is a fantastic field. But
This
it's
blows
also,
me away.
oh my goodness, it's also so difficult to understand, to prepare, because now, for example, Tesla, they first they didn't build their own electric motor. They didn't build it. They bought it from Taiwan.
Really?
Tesla, really. They bought it from Taiwan. So they found a company in Taiwan nobody knows of. Nobody. Honestly, I don't even know the name of the company, but my team knows it. So I believe in ownership. So I don't have to know anything, but my team knows the supplier in in Taiwan. And they used to ship the electric motor from Taiwan to California for the past 10 years. So now Tesla, they are building their plants around the world. In Germany, near Berlin, and in Shanghai, they have a new plant. And I know the Tesla guys, old friends of mine, they know work for Tesla. So it's a small world. It's everything is a small world. And so now they are thinking about building their own motor. It's all confidential, so I don't want to go so much in detail.
Sure,
but it is such a cool thing that now Tesla, they used to buy the motor outside. Now they're building it for the first time, and it's very, very, very risky. And they're talking to me. That's so fucking cool,
That is amazing.
Absolutely cool.
You're building the machine that makes them build a motor. Is that correct? What you're
That's
building
right.
is helping them have the tools in their manufacturing plant to build these types of motors. And now I know a big thing that's coming, Francis, is China was working on this new type of quick battery change facility. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So they said you're going to be able to change your battery in China. I believe it was something like 3 minutes, because they figured out that in so many years, you will need to change the battery on your Tesla or other electric car, and they need to make it convenient and quick. And they're going to spend a fortune on this, and they're going to hopefully set up test sites, and those sites will then hopefully be purchased so they can be brought over to the US so that they'll be able to change car batteries here quick and easily.
This whole system, I'm always trying to explain it in a way that your audience can really understand it quickly. The whole system of a powertrain of energy in an electric car has just been innovated every single year in the past 15 years. So everything has been changed over. This idea that you just describe, it's not, the Chinese would say 不稳定. It's not maintained yet. It's just a fantasy. So there's only one single company is doing this currently. It's called NIO, N-I-O. It's been the star of the stock exchange market in the past 10 months, I think. I even had shares, but I sold them too early. So they went from $2 to 60, like absolutely took off. And they had this idea to build an SUV, a Chinese-made SUV with a swap battery system. So you can just go somewhere and there is a station, it looks like a garage, and it will take your battery out and put a new battery in, and you just leave. Takes
That's
5
what I'm
minutes.
talking about. Exactly. Yes.
Exactly.
That's
so
it.
I'm just saying this system, it's an innovation, and innovations take time. So I would say, I like this Chinese word 不稳定. It's an idea. It doesn't really work yet because people.
The prototype isn't really built yet. It's still in the design phase.
No. It's working. It's working, but it's working. But the thing is that the Chinese people that own a car, an electric car in this state, they normally also live in an urban environment, so they have the chance to park their car in their apartment house downstairs, in the garage, and so they can charge like the Tesla. They can just charge. So now these kind of people, they are able to pay. I think this car is 480,000 RMB, which is like $60,000, $80,000, like this. So this is, or say it in a different way, my team's salary, they would be like 10,000 RMB per month. So 480,000 is like 48 months, 4 years gross salary for a car, So just you understand there's only a kind of certain point of the population can buy such a car. So they don't have a problem in kind of charging their car in the garage at night because they don't have an issue with this. So of course they also like to go somewhere, but it's not, if the Tesla has the plug-in charge and the NIO has the battery change, then you have to have two different infrastructures. And currently there's only one car has the battery swap, and all the other car companies have the charge. So it's an innovation. It's not sure if it will be successful or not, but it does look pretty promising. So I'm just waiting to see what happens,
It's going to be definitely very interesting. I've also noticed, Francis, a lot on different platforms, like, of course, LinkedIn, there has been more and more international connections, more than before. That's been something that's really been changing, not just during the pandemic, but even before the pandemic, that connections are starting to happen overseas more than they did just in your own city or in your own country. So you have a goal, don't you, to reach quite a few people on LinkedIn? Isn't that one of your things right now? You want to reach some
Actually, yeah, actually, John, I work. I have two hearts, kind of. You know, one is my company. What I was telling you about, that I'm helping this owner of my company to really kick off this electric motor business. You know, we want to be the best electric motor company, machine company
in
for
China.
electric motors in China. And we want to get all the international companies, if they want to do this in China, to buy it from us and not import the machines from their homemade suppliers, you know, from the
Okay.
US or Germany.
Okay.
So buy local. So this is my job, how I coach my team. So this keeps me very busy. But the other thing, this podcasting, it's kind of, it's another dream. It's another heart, you know. And so I use LinkedIn, to be honest, because LinkedIn is a very international community. So I talk to them about this podcasting, not about my job thing. You know, it's kind of a little bit of a different environment. And I'm so happy that I'm surrounded by lots of people who support the stream. So there's more than 70, more than 70 contributors on the podcast project already after not even 1 year. So
That's
there's more than
fantastic.
70 people that say this dream is fantastic. I want to contribute. I want to share my China story. I want, like I do with you now. I want to tell people about my job and how I came to China and why I love China and what you should do and do you need to speak Chinese and so on. So on LinkedIn, we built this company page for the podcast, and we started with a target to achieve 1,000 followers last year, end of year, and we hit it on December 31st.
And
You
what
know?
was your magic to do that? How did you do that so quickly? What do you think got you there so quickly?
Well, you know, I'm a sales guy, and I grew up. I always say I grew up in sales by pushing, just like what you said. So I have to get what I want. I have to push people, and I have changed. So I have changed. Now I am a visionary person. So I try to share the vision, and I try to share the dream, that what I want to build, and I need people help me. So I cannot do anything by myself. You know, I cannot. I
What did they say?
can.
There was a one very wise person that said, we are nothing as all, but when we come together as one, we can build and be anything.
Yeah, and this has been so fantastic. So we got this lots of support, and I know that, you know, people also give me this kind of feedback. You're kind of bragging. You're asking for help. This is, you know, this is not good. That's not professional. And I said, no, I think it's great because I want help. I don't want to build this myself. I really don't want to. I want to have this community of people who think China FlexPad is the future. That we want foreigners in China. The Chinese people, they want foreigners in China. They want, absolutely.
Really?
They want. They are very, very welcome to
I
foreigners.
didn't think
It
that
doesn't
was
matter.
what they wanted. I really didn't think that was what they wanted.
Foreigners are very welcome in China. Very, very welcome. Believe me. I'm very sure about this. I've been here 4 years. I've never been discriminated against. Never. I've
So you're
really,
trying to create more of a community online so that I guess people aspiring to, decide what they want to do for their careers, to motivate people that are coming out of school and college. And then also, I guess, to give people a reason to, I guess, dig deeper. Sometimes, when you're at a job, I tell people that the first job you're at may not be what your passion is.
yeah,
It may not
exactly.
be what you were destined to do. And that's when you have to be open to a calling. And if
Yeah,
you can't say every
exactly.
day that you don't work, well, then that's a problem. And I'm
Yeah,
happy to say that every day I don't work. I love
yeah,
doing what I
yeah,
do. I help people and do all kinds of different things, but I don't work.
yeah. That's
Now, we
great.
all have challenges that can happen, but that's not so. Maybe I work 3 days a year because you have to
Yeah,
deal with the accountant and things like that.
yeah,
But the other days, Francis, I
yeah,
don't think I'm really working. I mean, it's
yeah.
like
That's great.
I get to talk to wonderful people like you. I get to
Yeah,
bring out the message about having us have a great life. And there's just so much we can do. There's so much we can learn. and to inspire other people to do things and to hear their stories and to basically pass it on so that we can share our experiences. And I think what you're doing over in China is very similar, I guess, to what I'm doing in the United States, is that I'm helping people in the technology realm, because what our show, the JMOR Tech Talk show, is about is we talk about all different types of technology. We talk about how it works and what to do when it doesn't. And then we also give you some tips on things you should be aware of, like the doll that came out not too long ago, about a year ago, that they didn't put an extra PIN code in it so that the bad actors could just hack right through the website and hack the doll. And then it was asking very personal things. And now it became a very serious, possibly criminal situation. So even though we're on different paths, I'm doing this on the technology realm and exploring the careers there. You're exploring the careers of sales in China and just things from not only the venture world, but also, what is it like to be in the trenches as a salesperson? And what is it like after that? And where is the place you go for promotion? And you're really giving people, Francis, a hope, because maybe a lot of people in China are seeing these jobs and they're like, oh, I don't want to be a salesperson. Well, true, you don't want to be a salesperson your whole life, but you got to start there. And then you can become a manager.
John, exactly. I like to tell people that they need to build a track record. So this word comes from the investment community. So I only give my money to somebody I saw that they were able to make money in the past. That's a track record. He should show off success. It also comes from sales. If you hit your target 3 years, your manager gives you a higher target and more bonus and whatever. So you show that you had success. It's not always so easy, but you need to show some kind of track record. So you have to have one job where you start, and then people will give you a small responsibility. You have to show that you earn it, and then you will get more and more and more. And one day you can do something what I do. You can work your dream. That's really, really cool. But you have to earn it. Nobody would give me this responsibility without my 10 years experience in Germany.
You have to demonstrate some ability. I always say that all the degrees, my engineering degree, going to college, all that's great. But at the end of the day, Francis, people don't care about that. They care about, are you able to solve my problem? Are you able to get the job done? Are you able to get it done on time and in budget?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You need to show responsibility. And there is a book about extreme ownership by Jocko Willing, I think, about this. I'm not exactly sure, but he shows that this is what I believe in. If everybody takes ownership of what he's responsible for, then the whole company will be more successful. And something like this has been built in the concept of lean management. This is also, it's been very famous around the world. It's also something that is growing more and more in China. This is also what we're building here in the company, to make sure everybody needs to take responsibility for his part of the job. And then
accountability,
be successful. Accountability. It's very, very important, but also for me. So this is why I say I hate micromanagement. It doesn't help me, and it doesn't help my team. And now I can talk to you because I trust my team to do their job. But I also know, because talking to you will at some day will give me more profit for myself. And also somebody will call me and whatever will happen, but it will help me more than if I kind of track my team to do their job. I need to trust them. And my accountability is to grow and to dream and to transport this dream to my team. This is just what I do. And
you've got to build that foundation with them in the beginning and set the standards. And then once they're able to operate on the disciplines you put forth, then it's time to let them go loose. And if they have a question, unless they go very awry, which hopefully never happens, then you have to step in. And that's not micromanaging. That's solving something before it becomes a disaster. And not saying those things don't happen, but they shouldn't happen that often. But a big challenge, Francis, is not just having that ability and showing people a track record, But how about if you never get the chance to show the track record? Because if someone says, gee, I need a small project, but what if you're never given that chance? How do you convince somebody? Okay, you got all this experience, but they don't want to trust you yet. How do you get someone to give you that first chance?
I always it's more or less what you said before. I like to solve problems, right? So I always encourage to find out what is the problem of the company you want to work for. So what is the challenge? Try to understand. If you want to work for me, try to understand what's my problem. I want to work with Tesla, but they don't trust me. So what should I do now in order to get them to trust me? So I understand why they don't trust me, but I maybe not have the right tools to do something about this. So if you understand my job, what I have to do, and try to find 1 or 2 or 3 ideas how you can support me in this challenge, I'm going to trust you, and I'm going to trust you with the first small assignment. And this is how I work in my team. I distribute responsibility and I see what happens, if people can carry this responsibility or not. And in the end, they're all helping me. To be honest, they're helping me to do my job.
What I do, Francis, and it works all the time, is I come right out to someone and I say, Mr. Prospect, or whatever the person's name is, what's it going to take for us to get your job? What's it going to take for us to get that installation? And if they can't tell me what it's going to take, then I haven't listened clear enough to what's going on, because they've probably already told me.
Yeah.
But if they say to me, well, John, your price is too high. There's nothing I can do about the price. The price isn't negotiable. Well, what would really help me is if I had 3 referrals that were in the same industry. Done. I get you 3 referrals in the same industry. We'll come back and get a deposit on Monday. Does that sound like a good plan? Yeah. So you give them what they want. And then when you're able to deliver that little bit of, I like to call it a carrot, then it's time to move to the next step. But I always believe that you have to see what they want within reason. Okay. I mean, if they tell you they want a free motor, obviously you're not going to do that. But what's it going to take in reason? Well, I'd like to visit one of your clients that's using one of those motors and see how it's in operation. I don't just want to talk. I want to actually see it.
By the way, John, this is something really cool, because, I don't know how other companies do this, but China, they always have a different way of solving problems, So one thing is, I always say the Chinese way of developing, you buy a company in Europe and you take the technology to China, and, it doesn't sound very nice, but it's a Chinese way of developing. And to be honest, I've been here 4 years. I don't see anything negative in this. Everything is for sale somehow, and the Chinese just have a different way of approaching this, and they are definitely very, very efficient, very, very, very efficient. And also, when it comes to what you just said, that how can you get the customer to trust you? They will ask you to visit the factory of your customer to see the machine, but they're competitors, direct competitors. They're in the same market. So what do they want? Okay, just give me your working clothes, and I'm gonna sneak in and see the machine, and they don't know that I'm from the competition. And this is how it works in China. So everybody is doing this, and everybody knows this. But as long as you don't, there were so many areas in China where you know that you're doing something which you shouldn't be doing, but you also know that you have to do it, otherwise you won't get the deal. And because of this this way of working, that one person doesn't make the decision, but the kind of collective group makes a decision, you're not really responsible for whatever you're doing. So you're just doing one step, and some people will tell you what to do. You're just doing this. It's a totally different way, and it's very important to understand this if you want to do business in China, that you need to really earn the trust in becoming part of this this client system, to be friends with them. It's totally different from the US.
It's different, Francis. It's very different.
Very different. But it's great for me to experience this. It's great for me to be a teacher in China and also to learn so much. So I really thought about being a professor myself. And now I always think, can I learn as a professor? Can I learn from my students? I'm not sure. But now in China, I learn every day, but I still teach. It seems to me like a dream. I'm not sure if I can achieve this anywhere
You
else.
could do it as a professor, but you would need to have people under you, and you would do research projects, and you would have to keep doing things to get the college grants. So that's how it would work. You'd have to keep coming up with doctorates and papers, and
Mm.
then you would learn. It wouldn't just be like you're teaching the students. You would have to
I
keep
know.
pushing.
Mm. Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So that might be the next step for you, Francis.
Yes, I'm totally interested in this. Honestly, if I could achieve this, to be a professor in a business school in China, teaching Chinese young students how to be an international leader, this would be my next dream. I'm totally committed to this because money is money is just a number on the balance sheet. So of course it's important, but what I really want to achieve is to continuously grow and also to distribute what I've learned in a good scale, but just not only distribute, also learn myself and develop, not just do something for money.
And it's important, I think, when, like I said to you, when you learn how to fish, you can fish every day of your
Yeah,
life. And
exactly.
the good thing about that is, off of a very similar book from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where he teaches the one son, he teaches him that if I give you the money, you'll have the money for the day. But if I show you how to make the money, you'll be wealthy for life. So I
Yeah,
think that's the problem with people all around the globe, is things get handed to them, and I don't think that's bad. But what happens is when they have to go now do it on their own and it's not handed to them, well, what do I do now?
yeah, I know.
So when
I know.
something happens, and things are going to happen, you need to be able to think on your feet, is what I call it.
Yeah,
And so you can adapt and be ready to just make that money again.
yeah, exactly.
It's a
But once
mindset,
more,
Francis. It's a mindset.
I'm really into money and investing, and I know the book that you just read. I really like it, and I also really like ideas. But I really want to say that life is not about money. Life is about personal growth, about what you learn and what you share, how you can leave your trace behind. And this is such a great journey since I really started to concentrate on this. And this is what you do as well, right? How you educate and how you share your know-how and the know-how of your guests with your audience, and let everybody learn a little bit every day. Now, maybe your audience have learned something about electric motors, Chinese culture, and
I hope
sales.
they've learned a lot. I'll tell you, I did not know as much about China culture tonight, and I didn't know what I was going to learn. I thought we were just going to talk about motors. We never know exactly. Our show's got a
It's
general format, but we never know exactly what we're going to learn.
it's morning, in China. It's morning. It's tomorrow morning for you, more or less. I'm here Friday morning, and it's Thursday night for you. It's so funny.
It's definitely a very interesting way. And what I've learned here tonight, Francis, is that China's not really a bad country or a bad culture. It just seems that they're very diehard for business. They will do whatever they need to for business. And I think sometimes that zealousness is what might cause the clash between two cultures.
Exactly. So I think if your audience wants to understand one thing about China, is just keep this in mind. One person doesn't make the decision. The system makes the decision. So if you talk to one person will tell you one part of information. Don't take this part of information as the message. Try to analyze the whole picture.
Well, I got to tell you, Francis, this has been an amazing interview. I've learned so much, and I know our viewers have learned quite a bit. If any of our audience would like to reach out to you and they have more questions about your program or about China culture, would you like to leave any way for our audience to reach out to you?
It's very easy. You'll find me on LinkedIn, but also if you try to find China FlexPet, it's flexible expat. So FL FlexPet, ChinaFlexPet.com. Very easy. Or China FlexPet on LinkedIn. If you look for me, you're gonna find me. No problem. And I'm going to respond to any question. I'm always happy to extend my network.
Well, like I said, Francis, this has been really amazing. I do want to thank you for taking the time out of your morning for our evening, because it is morning there. And, definitely stay in touch with us as you move through your journey and share with us, what's happening in your career. I'm sure we'd love to have you come back on the show maybe in 6 months or a year, and you can tell us maybe what's evolved or what have you learned or what's changed.
Exactly. We will do. Thank you so much, John. You're really a great, great host. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being such a great guest. And, I have to tell you, this was really interesting. So we don't just interview people, ladies and gentlemen, from the United States. We had our first guest not too long ago from Asia. We had Francis here, who was from Germany and now in China. And we have some other guests coming. So you don't have to be in the United States. You do have to speak English, though, unfortunately, because we're not going to start translating the show. We haven't found a way to actually translate to all our streams at one time in different languages. I think that might be a little bit of a logistical issue. So we wish you well, Francis, to stay happy, healthy, and safe with your family and your career, and all the best for everything you're doing with your team at your electric motor company there in China.
Thank you. Thank you so much. 谢谢
You're
and
welcome.
再见.
Well, when we have guests from around the world, Marcus, we learn so much. And with our vision about China, regardless of what side of the fence you're on, I have to say this, they're definitely doing a lot of great things. And Francis, to take his job from being a salesperson and then retiring, because that was a very low level job in China, and then to come back into his dream job and be a manager and a cultivator of young minds to direct sales. I think that was pretty revolutionary. What do you think?
It was both revolutionary and inspiring at the same time, to hear such a story and to see such transformation that he's been doing, not only for himself when he stepped into the position, but what he's doing to transform the minds that he's been working with and fostering over there in that particular region, part of the region. Truly advancements that they're doing. So I love it. Great story.
I also thought it was very interesting, Marcus, the way they pay, what was it, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times more money if you're going to leave your habitat here, United States or wherever you are, and you're not in China and you're going to go work in China. Now, that's a big sacrifice to go do that, but 10 times more than what they would pay someone in China for that job.
Yeah.
That just kind of blew my mind. And what I also learned from him, Marcus, is that, everybody says, China's bad. China's not bad. China's about, creating, I guess, and exploring and developing and building a real strong economy. However, the thing about China is that they sometimes don't have, I'm going to say, the same level. I don't want to call it respect, but maybe the same nomenclatures as we do in the United States for respect, because they're serious about their craft. And I think sometimes that comes off in a manner that may not position them as high on the charts, but they're doing a lot of stuff. I mean, granted, things happen with COVID and stuff like that, but they're doing a lot of things. And the truth is, China does want to work with the United States and other countries. And I do believe that they want to help grow it. I mean, there have been a lot of challenges, as you know, with politics and what's been said. But at the end of the day, I think there's a very good percentage of China that really wants to help grow all the economies. The only thing I'm not crazy about over there, Marcus, is their level of security. I mean, they have cameras inside of cameras and cameras on corners and malls. And I just think it's a bit much.
Yeah, that seems a bit, overwhelming, and that does get pretty scary because, why so much intrusiveness? And I was just hearing about this just the other day, in terms of just what they want to do with crypto, with creating their own digital currency, and just what they're trying to do with that, and and even getting as far as making transactions you make so public that that you won't be able to hide what you're purchasing. So yes, a lot of invading.
They're saying, Marcus, that people that get into crypto on the ground level, let's call it the elite right now, they're going to be grandfathered into the anonymous world. But once a few years transpire, the new people signing up are going to be, let's say, ruled by different laws.
Yeah.
So if you are trying to get into crypto, not that we're going to go there today, you want to get in soon, because the rules are going to change in the next couple of years. And if you're not in it, you're not going to be able to take money that you make and spend it anonymously on a credit card. Not going to be able to do that. But people that come in grandfathered are not going to be able to be touched because of the rules,
Right.
International rules. So the question is, when we talk about freedom and tyranny, what are we sacrificing? I feel, Marcus, that there has to be a balance between security and freedom. And although I don't think we can just let people run around with their heads off all day long, we have to have a standard, just like we have a standard for traveling, for safety, for speeding and things like that. That's great. You do everything you're supposed to do, Marcus. Nobody bothers you.
Right.
Right? But it's only the people that have this lame brain scheme, or they try to believe that they're bigger or better than the law, that gets them into trouble. That's what I notice. All right, our last story for tonight is a real good one. Microsoft, who we talk about them an awful lot, as it's probably no shock to anyone. Thousands of Microsoft customers may have been victims of an attack that was led to China's efforts. This started around January, and then it gradually started to move up the ladders in the weeks that moved on. And many businesses and government agencies were affected.
Wow.
I mean, here's a company that is supposed to be developing software that people use on their computers. But I have to say this, Marcus, regardless of who it is, I have never been overly impressed with the level of security they brought to the table. I liked it when Novell was here.
Yeah.
Nobody could shine a stick or light a candle to Novell. They had security, Marcus, that everybody made fun of. They were the first company to come up with containers, not Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody sort of copied that. And it was funny. In Novell's world, you could do anything you wanted. In Microsoft's world, well, you could do a lot, but there's just a lot more steps to do the same thing you could do in Novell for like security and files and who had permissions, like parents and children and stuff like that. And I just feel it comes down to this, Marcus. These companies are in it for the money.
Yeah.
They're not in it for your best interest, for my best interest, for our viewers' best interest. They're just trying to do things that are going to make the wheel churn money. And with cybersecurity's reporters bringing more things to the table and listing now that over 30,000 Microsoft customers were probably affected. Wow. And here's a quote I'd like to read from Microsoft.
Yeah.
We're concerned that there are a large number of victims. Close quote. Isn't that nice that they're concerned?
Yeah.
But Marcus,
yeah,
I don't know how concerned they really are.
Yeah.
I think they're saying this because of the impacts that it may have on their company.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's going to be something we're just going to have to watch. And I think that when software comes out there, you have to have other levels of protection. This is why I say to people that sometimes security software has to be replaced, not just with new versions, but sometimes new vendors. They're not meeting the mark. I mean, there was a while, I think it was a few years ago, that Microsoft came out with a security add-on product because they were giving it free. But who uses Microsoft security? Nobody.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they have the potential to do it, but why don't they develop something that is so stellar? They don't want to, Marcus. They don't want to. And the reason they don't want to, it's no secret. It's because they would then have to become a think tank and now be susceptible to all the things that all of the many security companies that write antivirus software are subject to. And they don't want to get into that box.
Yeah.
And that's the main reason. But when you think of this and a company being able to not escape the limelight of cyber attacks, a company as large as Microsoft, and for it to be known for months and then suddenly for people to not do anything. As I said before, Marcus, no one really does anything until it causes a problem. And I want to bring another quick story up, and that is a company that I'm not going to mention their name. They're one of the lowest priced payroll companies in the world. Okay. You could do payroll with them for under 40 or 50 bucks a month. When I say that, you're all going to probably know who I mean. And the thing is this, they've recently been having a problem in New Jersey, I don't know about other states, where they're filing payroll not on time and wrong.
Oh, wow.
And when you call a company like this, you get people at a call center that don't really care. And when you tell them that you're going to take action, they tell you they need to disconnect the call. See, this is what I call, Marcus, a shell company. A company that this isn't your primary mission. Now, there's nothing wrong with having these kind of companies, but if you can't operate it properly, then why do you even have it? And this company has taken so much payroll away from all the other big players. But they don't provide any kind of assurance. And you're talking a lot of money, Marcus. You're talking $100 a month for every time they misfile something or they're late. So where is the accountability? I mean, you have to file reports with district attorney generals and Better Business Bureau, but why should people have to do that? Why aren't people conscious of what they're doing? I'll tell you what it is. They're seeing so much money come in and they don't know what the heck they're doing.
Yeah.
And when they go to figure it out, they're like, wow, we're in this way too deep. So they just decide to ignore phone calls. Any company that keeps you on hold for over an hour, and then when they're about to close, after you've talked to them, they put you on hold, and then magically your call gets disconnected. That's not customer service, Marcus.
No, it's not.
So maybe if these companies can't toe their line, maybe we got to go back to paying some of the higher prices. At least you're getting your payroll reports filed on time. I don't know, Marcus. I just wish people would have the same level of integrity and honesty that you and I do, that really want to help people. There's so many people out there that say they want to help people, but they just have their hand out all day long.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge problem that's really pressing this world. I mean, we thought it was just only America, but now it's spreading globally now, where you got some companies in other parts of the world that's doing the same thing, and freelancers too. So don't let me get on these so-called freelancers. that's a thrown around title nowadays.
It comes down to the big letter,
Yeah.
Marcus, and that is A for accountability.
Yeah, accountability. You got it.
I see why all these companies now require licenses for things in Florida for stupid things. And it's because of the accountability problem they've had.
Exactly.
That's why everything's become licensed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. People can't police themselves and keep the stuff tight on a
That's the challenge. Well, we're at the top or the end of another show here. And we have some more great guests, I'm sure you know, coming up next week. I have a great guest coming on next week. We always have great guests, but we have Mr. Martin Cooper coming on next week. Now, I'm not sure if you know who Martin Cooper is, but he is the first man, ladies and gentlemen, to ever talk on a cell phone. And I'm going to be privileged to talk to him because not only did he talk on a cell phone, but I understand he is an engineer, which I always like to talk to other engineers that actually helped develop the cell phone. And we're going to ask him, who did he call on the cell phone? Who was that first call? I'm dying to know. He made a call on a cell phone to someone. Who was it? Was it his wife? Was it his kids? Who was it? Was it the bank? I don't know. Was it his boss? So you're going to have to wait till next week. But until then, listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you do have a product that you would like me to unbox, you can reach out to jmor.com. Let us know that you have a product, or if you'd like to be a guest. Remember, our show is about education. So if you're coming on the air to try to sell a product, well, we're probably not going to accept your application. And interviews now have been cut to 15 minutes. So you have to make sure you have a lot of juicy information at 15 minutes and really can compress that into a succinct interview. So if you can do that, we would love you to reach out to us. But in the meantime, before I say goodbye to all of you, I want to encourage you to be safe, be smart, practice social distancing, think with your head, okay? Not your ego. And remember, if it takes a few extra moments to get somewhere, let's arrive alive, as we've heard from our state of New Jersey many times. Arrive alive, take that extra few moments, and just realize everyone is a person and they all just want to be treated with respect. Don't you want to be treated with respect? Marcus, it's been a pleasure being here with you tonight.
Pleasure, all's mine.
And we're going to be back again next Friday night, 5:30 p.m. I wish you guys a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning in to the JMOR Weekly Technology Show, where we answer your questions about how technology is supposed to work and sometimes why you have challenges getting it to work that way. For more IT support and tips, just text IT support to 888-111. That's IT support to 888-111, and you'll get tips on technology. I'll see you next week right here on the JMOR Tech Talk Show. Remember, JMOR.com.